Home renovation, folks. That is what we are going to be talking about today. Over my 10-year career in the mortgage business, I've had thousands of clients reach out to me and ask for recommendations in terms of home renovation or even doing a full project from the ground up in terms of what's considered a 403k rehab loan. And when they've asked me for a recommendation, my answer has always been the same, and I don't have one. And the answer is because, as far as home renovation, everybody has heard the horror stories. It takes twice as long as they initially expected, and the budget has now tripled. And I have the pleasure of having Adam Lingenfelter, owner of Lingenfelter Luxury Homes, with us. And I've known Adam for years now, and I was ecstatic to find out that his company is breaking into home renovation. And that's where I wanted to come out and do a video to send out to everybody, because he is the contact in home renovation. And so, Adam, thank you for spending some time with us today. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, and go from there.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you inviting me to do this. I have been in the business now. Really, we built our first house back in 1993. I've been doing it a long time. Got into the business because really I was building my very first house for my family and really enjoyed the process. And so decided to do a little bit more on the side. We did, several over the course of the next decade or so, just for friends and family and that type of deal. But eventually started this company right around 15 years ago and started with the home building side completely. And then, like I said, just got into the renovation here recently. So I just really enjoy being able to help clients take their vision that's in their mind and being able to get it built for them and for their family to be able to use for generations, hopefully.
I think that's a perfect place to start, is the vision, especially for somebody like myself. My wife is wanting to redo our kitchen right now, and she's telling me everything about it, but I can't see it. Right. And so when a client does come meet with you, can you take us through that initial process and maybe how you can help them kind of see the vision of what you guys can bring to life?
Yeah, of course. So our first couple meetings are very much just vision meetings. We really want to sit and get into people's heads as much as we possibly can, because there's a lot of thoughts. Sometimes they have information they could share, like things on Pinterest or whatever that they really like. But a lot of times they really just don't even know truly what they want at this point, especially when it's a couple, because one may have a totally different opinion than the other. It takes a little bit to really get to a cohesive vision for both of the family members. So it really takes a couple meetings. In those meetings, those are just initial meetings that we have with them where we don't charge or anything. It's really just a way to get them comfortable with us and for us to get comfortable with them, to really understand what their goals are. Once we have goals, then at that point, we will go further and discuss the potential of what it looks like from a budgeting standpoint based on what they want to achieve and that type of stuff.
And I know you guys have a very transparent pricing model. So as far as on your end, can you tell us a little bit how, like, if you quote and you say, hey, this is going to be $50,000, $60,000, how do you guys keep that price in that range, especially with, like I mentioned, when we have other clients and other contractors, they quote a certain number, but the final price is always three times as high.
Yeah, for us, the first thing we start with is a budget. And so we need a client to tell us what they really want to spend at a max, because then it helps us build a budget around what they want to spend. And so if a client comes to us and says, look, we have $100,000, that's what we want to spend, then our goal is to build a scope. So the amount of things that they can get done for that 100,000, so that they're going to feel comfortable at the end spending that $100,000. And so once we set a budget and we understand what it is that their goals are, then we go through it and get the plans done, get all the designs done, engineering, all of that, and then get our final budgets in place based off of their selections, so that we know exactly what that cost is. And that process takes a little bit of time, usually 6 to 8 weeks on a reno, to get every selection done. And that's on a bigger one. If there's a smaller one, there's very little selections, it'll obviously take less. But I would just say that's more of an average. Once we get through that process, at that point, when we have everything selected and we know what the total amount's going to be, then we would contract with the client, and then they would know what their costs are, because the only thing that would change after that point would be if they make a change themselves.
And so if you're somebody who has been in a house and maybe, like they've noticed that the floor is slanting, or, they've noticed that something on their, cabinets is, kind of shifting or something like that, how important is it to be kind of upfront and transparent with some of the problems that they're able to identify up front before you guys kind of get in there to avoid any surprises?
Yeah, we talk a lot about that in those first two meetings about things that could happen, so that they go in eyes wide open, just understanding the kind of things you could encounter when you start tearing into walls. But we're also very open about the importance of transparency on their part as well with us, because if we don't know about it, we can't prepare for it and we can't budget for it. And so it's like we say, it's like when you go to your doctor, if you don't tell your doctor that you've got an issue, he can't help diagnose you properly. So you got to be honest with us and transparent. That helps us help you in the end to get your project done on time and within the budget.
And as far as like, home renovation, especially if somebody's still like living in the house, right? What's like an ideal time frame in terms of if somebody's wanting to get a kitchen and a bathroom redone? And can you talk a little bit about how you guys make the process easy for the client, especially going through kind of an emotional roller coaster with a home renovation while they're still living in the house?
Yeah, I mean, it is challenging, but it's also very common. I would say that, most clients on a reno do stay in the home, and I've been through it myself. And so I know firsthand how difficult it can be at times. But we do, again, really want to communicate that, and we do want to protect them in as many ways as possible from construction, which can be noisy and messy. So we will work with them regarding their schedule. If they are gone certain hours of the day and that's when they want people to be working, then we will do what we can to accommodate that. But it also could affect the length of the job. And we will walk through all that with them. And they will be a major part in helping us decide the speed of the job based on how it could impact their family.
And I'm sure that makes a big difference. I've heard contractors sometimes they show up 3 days and then they're gone for five, right? You don't hear anything. So, I mean, as far as the communication piece, I think that's, paramount in who you're going to kind of go with. And so if I was, to consult with you guys and possibly consult with, another general contractor, what are some things that, I should maybe be looking out for or asking another contractor, and what kind of separates you guys from the competition?
I mean, the first thing that I think is really, really important for anybody going into this to understand is budgets don't mean anything until a scope is created. And so, I mean, if you go to a custom car guy, same kind of thing, to go have a bunch of work done on a car. If you just say how much is it going to be to fix up this car, he could throw out a dozen different prices and none of them are very meaningful if you don't know what he's going to actually do. Or if he doesn't know what you want to do. It's the same thing with a reno or a new home build. Until we know exactly what the client wants, we can't really build a scope that means much. And so if builders are telling you, or a renovation contractor is telling you a budget with some sort of certainty and they don't really understand what it is you're doing, be very nervous, because you're going to end up getting a bunch of change orders because they don't understand what you're doing. And so we work really hard to identify everything through our PSA process, which is our pre-construction and service agreement, to identify 100% of the scope so that we know exactly what's going to happen before you actually, start the project itself. So there shouldn't be a lot of surprises. The rare surprises being things that we identify inside the walls and we tear in. Doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen. So those are things we make our clients aware of. But for the most part, most of that should be identified before we even move the, first hammer and hit the first nail. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that doesn't happen with most other contractors. They start the job and then, they continue to find things along the way. Another big problem in the industry right now is the duration of listings sitting on the market. Here in DFW, the average house is sitting on the market for 62 days. And a lot of people are either trying to just break even or even taking a loss on their house. And what a lot of clients have came to me with is like, hey, well, what if we did some type of renovation to our house so we could A, stand out in the market, and B, try to increase our return? What would you say is, either what is the best return that a client can do in terms of a renovation? And how do you also coach them from, getting a rate of return in a good investment compared to doing a project, spending money that just ultimately turns into a money pit?
So in those first couple of meetings that we have, those vision meetings, we will identify the difference between the client that wants to flip their house and get as much money out of it as possible versus the one that wants to live in it for quite a long time, and they want to do some things that are special to them and important to them. Because the reality is a lot of the things you may do may not get more return on your house. And so we kind of help them understand it like a flipper would. And there's tons of TV shows about people flipping houses and making lots of money on them by doing that. Well, in doing that, you got to be really careful about your selections. And so we try to help the client get things in their home that are going to definitely boost the value of it without costing more than they need to cost. So there are lots of examples of that, but our goal in the end is to spend as little of our clients' money to be able to get the biggest return for them when they go to sell.
And speaking of house flipping, as far as if somebody was looking at doing like a rehab type of loan where we're going to be going through the financing portion for the renovation rather than somebody paying cash, is that process any different on your end or is it kind of similar?
It's pretty similar. I mean, our process is similar no matter what kind of project they're doing, because we're still going through and identifying their goals and visions. We're still creating all the documents that are needed for the subcontractors to be able to do the work on the renos. And then again, from a construction standpoint, you may be doing different things, but you're still going through the same steps and the same processes.
Is the permitting different for something like a PK renovation loan compared to doing something with just like bathroom, bedrooms, things like that?
Not really. I mean, they can be with new homes, for example, new home builds in certain areas. You may wait 6 months for permits, but on renos, pretty much any type of reno, for the most part, they're relatively quick to get the permitting done. So you really spend a little more time on plans and engineering. And not every home needs engineering. If you're not doing anything structurally to it and it's more of a facelift, then there may not be any engineering needed for that. Unless you're trying to eliminate some posts and things like that, we may need to put some beams to hold the weight of the roof or whatever in those cases. But in a lot of cases, there isn't structurals needed. And so really the process is actually fairly quick once you have plans in those cases.
Interesting. That's definitely on our end. Dealing with the contractor has always been the slowest part. And with those renovation loans, I cannot stress enough that if that is the route that you want to go, you absolutely have to work with the right contractor because the communication and service and the plans, we can't do anything without it. And so, as far as on my end, I definitely wouldn't recommend anybody but Adam. If you are thinking about a renovation loan, either use Adam or you can find somewhere else to go with the loan. Do you have like a favorite project that you guys like as far as renovation? Do you prefer one project over another?
No, I think what's fun about our business is everything is completely different. So every job has its own challenges that we get to overcome. Every, customer situation is unique. So it's fun. Every job is different for us. So I think if I'd get really bored if every project was exactly the same, and that's what makes our business unique over a lot of other things. So we do enjoy that quite a bit. There have been some really fun projects for us. I do love doing a final walk with a client and seeing, that joy on their face and happy tears when they finally get to move into their home that they've dreamed about. In some cases, some of our clients have been dreaming about it for 10 or 15 years and are finally in a position to be able to do it. So it's pretty cool to be a part of.
And I know you don't just do home renovation. Did you want to speak on, the luxury home build side that you guys do as well?
Yeah, we do. I mean, that's again where we started and what we've done for the longest amount of time. But, we'll do homes up to 20, $30 million. So, and I would say most of them are in the 1 million to $5 million range. That seems to be where most of our clients come in at. But, we love going through that process and helping them design a home. And again, the process is really similar. We go through the same vision meetings. We go through really trying to identify what they want to accomplish, going through that PSA process and getting them plans that they want for their home. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get those plans perfect for them. And then keep giving them budget updates throughout the design process so that they don't ever get, out of whack budget wise and they stay right where they started with budget wise. So the process is similar. The projects are maybe a little bit bigger and they take a little bit longer, but they're all fun.
You have any projects you're working on now?
Yeah, we have several. We have, I think, 8 or 9 going right now at the moment. We've got probably another 5 or 6 that are in different size or different parts of the design process.
Awesome. And if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, where should they go?
There's a lot of ways you can get a hold of us. Our website, which is lingenfelterluxuryhomes.com. They could reach us or me on my email, adam@llhdfw.com. We are on pretty much every social media. So if you want to go to Instagram, if you want to go to Facebook, or I think we're pretty much everywhere. Even if you want to watch videos, we have content on YouTube as well. So we could be found for sure.
Well, that's awesome, Adam. Thank you very much for your time. If you guys need any home renovation, custom home building, anything in between, Adam Lingenfelter is your guy. Thank you very much, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan, for doing this. This is great.